Now it is my honor and my pleasure to invite Kimberly Murray, Independent Special Interlocutor, to provide closing remarks. Let's have a big round of applause.
I know you're just excited because we're coming to the end here. You probably have big plans in the big city. It's so great to see so many of you still here on a Friday afternoon. We normally don't hold our events Wednesday, Thursday, Friday for fear of losing people on the Fridays. And so thank you everyone for still being here. This is the time when I try and summarize what I heard at the national gathering. And I want you to know that everything I heard over the last 2.5 days is going to inform the work of our final report and the recommendations for the new legal framework moving forward. So here we begin. Over the last 2.5 days, we have been guided by our elders, our knowledge holders, ceremony, songs, and drums. We have heard from survivors, incredible youth, community members, Indigenous leaders, experts, and technicians. We commenced this 5th national gathering, as we have with all previous gatherings, with the lighting of a sacred fire at sunrise on Wednesday. Elder John Cree told us that many years ago, our people lit the fire on Mount Royal to invite all people to come from far away to gather here. And we were reminded that we all carry the sunlight within us. Those that participated in the ceremony offered sacred tobacco to the fire. Some walked around the fire starting in the east, and others walked around the fire starting in the west, recognizing that each have our own teachings and ways. But no way is right, we were told, and no way is wrong. It did not matter, because the elders said we would all meet in the center. We also followed Inuit protocol, and Elder Emma Relis lighted the kulik Wednesday afternoon, providing light and warmth to our gathering. An opening Thanksgiving was offered, giving greetings and thanks to all of creation, and then a ceremony was conducted around the empty chair for the spirits of the little children. Elder Silverbear said that although we do not see their faces, we put our hearts and our minds together for them and for the parents that grieve. We prepared and offered a spirit dish for the little ones, remembering them, celebrating them, inviting them to join us so that we could feed their spirits. We honored the children and the survivors with the drum and rattle songs from the Red Tail Singers and the Ganasatake traditional women singers. We were welcomed into the territory by Grand Chief Skydeer of Ganawage and Grand Chief Bonspiel of Ganasatake. We are very grateful for their kindness and generosity to us. Grand Chief Skydeer reminded us that despite all the differences between our nations, many things unite us, including laughter, good words, good minds, good spirits, and all of us being together to support one another as we remember those who did not return home. It is within all of us to put forward our good minds, our good thoughts, and, as Grand Chief Bonspiel said, to support the work we are all doing to find the missing children. We then heard from AFN Interim National Chief Bernard, who encouraged survivors to continue sharing their experiences. She said, "Each story educates the public about the true history that must be told for our collective healing." Elle nous a dit que la APN est solidaire des survivants et a demandé plus de soutien au gouvernement fédéral et provincial. Les paroles du chef national ont été entendues par le conseiller spécial de la ville de Montréal, Alila Hassan Kourneau, qui a déclaré qu'elle entendrait, écouterait, et apprendrait. We ended our evening with the moving words and songs of Beatrice Deer, who showed us the power of music, warming our hearts, minds, and our spirits. Yesterday, following the opening Thanksgiving, we heard from survivors. Norman told us how he spent 7 years in Indian residential school. He said from the very first day, he wanted to run away. He cried every night for 2 years. He recalled an epidemic in the institution where every child was sick. And he said he believed that the medicine that they were being given was making them sick. He did escape once, and he was brought back, where he received a beating for escaping and for speaking of the abuses that were happening to him. He also told us of a child that had died at the institution, and he wondered if that child was returned to their parents. Il s'est demandé comment l'Église et le gouvernement pouvaient manquer de respect à tout enfant décédé sur leur garde. Il a déclaré que le système est brisé et mal honnête, et que les choses qui leur ont été faites lorsqu'ils étaient enfants sont impardonnables. Emma shared that her father passed away in 1959, and her mother was told that she had to put her kids into residential school or they would be adopted out. She said that is when her life changed. She was there for 4 years. She told us how she was never shown any love or affection and was not able to show love and affection to her own children as a result. She told us she speaks about her abuse in the residential school because if survivors stop speaking about what happened, it could happen again. Angie a déclaré que les survivants sont les témoins de la période la plus sombre de l'histoire du Canada. She remembers literally being pulled from her mother's arms, screaming and sobbing. And she said that we became nobody's children. Nobody came to check on us. Everybody forgot about us. We were forced into the unknown. Angie told us how as a child taken to residential school, she was introduced to and witnessed violence and saw inhumane treatment. Scars that many survivors will carry all of their lives, saying, "We learned to kiss away the tears and talk away the fears." But she also reminded us that survivors won. As you are all still here, you are still here. And she said, the message is clear to Canada. No more. No more. we are capable of making our own decisions, and that our children are the most important part of our lives, and they deserve the very best. She asked us to be kind to each other, and she said, "We are one people, and nobody will separate us again." When Senator Francis asked the survivors what messages they would like him to deliver to his colleagues on the upcoming National Day for Truth and Reconciliation, Angie said, "We need healing." Norman said, "Quebec does not recognize the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation, and it should be recognized in all provinces and territories." Emma said, "We need to stop fighting against our own people." All three survivors were asked what words of encouragement they wanted to provide for other survivors to share their truths. Norman wanted everyone to love each other, to ask for help when you need it, because help is out there. Emma said to be true to yourself, be kind, and respect people. Elle a dit, peu importe où vous vivez sur la terre mère, nous sommes tous égaux. Et Angie a dit que la vérité était notre vie. Soyez gentils et honnêtes et soyez fiers de qui vous êtes. Our relations from Tk'emlúps-te-Secwépemc then honored the survivors by wrapping them in the warmth and beauty of a song from their territory. Yesterday, we also heard from newly appointed Minister of Justice and Attorney General for Canada, Minister Virani. He reported on some progress that Canada has made in implementing the Truth and Reconciliation calls to action. He rightfully recognized the legacy of racism in Canada. And he said, we must not and cannot deny what happened. And we cannot deny the resulting pain and trauma it has caused. He noted the depth of inequality in Canada and committed to working together to address it. He said, all Canadians need to hear the truths of survivors. We were then honored to hear from Senator Michel Audette, who also spoke of the deep-seated racism in Canada, telling us how, until 1989, there were trains in northern Quebec that had separate cars for white people and those for savages. She spoke of her experience as a commissioner on the Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women and Girls Inquiry, and how in Quebec she heard of babies going missing, never coming back from institutions, and being buried in locations unknown to their parents. She said that the system was made to stop us. She shared how when she became a senator, she was in the East Block of the Parliament buildings, where there is a portrait of John A. Macdonald. She walked up to that portrait, placed her hands on it, and she said, crying, "You tried to erase us, but you missed your shot. We are still here." She said survivors are the real leaders and encouraged everyone to keep moving forward with the sacred work of finding the missing children and to continue telling your truths. Tout au long de rassemblement, nous avons entendu des nombreux participants. Beaucoup ont parlé des problèmes persistante liées à l'accès aux dossiers, notamment au dossier des pensionnats indiens ainsi qu'aux dossiers médicaux et hôpital. One participant raised that Canada only wants to talk about Indian residential schools, but we need to also talk about industrial schools, hospitals, sanatoriums, homes for disabled children, homes for unwed mothers, children being taken to the United States between provinces, and the difficulty of working between various communities and countries. We also heard about the challenges Métis people continue to face to be recognized, to receive compensation and reparations for the harms they endured in similar institutions. An inequality that we need Canada to step up and address. We had an opportunity to learn from several leaders about what steps they have taken to search for missing children in and from their territories. Chief Counselor Ken Watts spoke of the Albany Indian Residential School. He said, "A school we never asked for or consented to, but have had to live with for over 100 years." He describes the community process that they embarked on that was led and guided by survivor accounts and archival records and has utilized a number of ground search techniques. He stated that owning the land where the residential school site was located was one less barrier that they had to face. He told us that survivors had said there can be no reconciliation without truth and no change without justice. Survivors want justice, and someone needs to be held accountable. Seashot First Nation issued its own 26 calls for truth and justice. The very first call is that there is a need for further legal investigations to be done by an independent body and not by the RCMP, given their long history in removing children from their homes. Grand Chief Garrison Seedy told us of the important work that Manitoba, Kiiwetinoong Okimakanak are doing to help support the search for the missing children from 26 First Nations to 8 Indian residential schools in southern Manitoba and 6 in northern Manitoba. Some children were also taken to Maryville in Saskatchewan. He said after the news from Kamloops, they immediately wrote to the Prime Minister, declaring the Indian residential school sites as a crime scene and the deaths of the children as crimes against humanity. They called on Minister Lametti to commence an investigation and to prosecute these crimes. Grand Chief said no response was provided from Canada. But MKO continues their path forward. They continue to act, and they continue to speak for the children. But because he said, we owe it to them. We will not let them down, and we will not fail. MKO wants an agreement with the province of Manitoba so that the lands will be protected and accessible to First Nations people. Families need to have control and custody of the burial grounds, and their right to make decisions about their children must be respected. He said we need to develop a law in Canada, similar to what is in place in the United States, to protect the burial grounds and repatriate the remains. Nous avons ensuite entendu parler du travail qui fait la nation Cree dans le nord québécois. La grande chef d'Almasty s'est dit très préoccupée par le manque de financement et de soutien de la part du gouvernement fédéral. Elle a souligné les nombreux défis auxquels font face les communautés crient pour participer au rassemblement des survivantes en raison de leur éloignement. Their first steps have been to create safe spaces for dialogue. They are guided by survivors and elders in their work. However, the forest fires this summer have impacted and delayed their ability to do their ground searches. Grand Chief also voiced disappointment with the lack of follow-up from the papal visit last year. She said that is not in the spirit of reconciliation. Moving forward, the communities would like to see land-based healing processes and programs put in place. At the breakout sessions, panelists and participants explored 4 areas. One breakout discussed how First Nations police services could help support the investigations for missing children. Another discussed the power and limitations of Bill 79 in Quebec, which was created to facilitate access to information about the children that went missing in Quebec. We also had a workshop on the need for specialized translation services of church records from French to English, and another on the importance of connecting data to understand each child's residential school experience. It was a day filled with important, but at times very heavy conversations. To lift our spirits before we departed for the evening, we closed by participating in some longhouse social dances, where we laughed, we stumbled over each other, and got some good steps and stomping in. And I know that the spirits of the children were stomping with us too, as we danced around the empty chair. We started today with the opening Thanksgiving provided by Elders Cree and Silver Bear. We were reminded of the importance, again, of laughter and how laughter heals our mind and our hearts. This morning, we heard the powerful voices of young people. Rosalie shared with us a teaching she received, that to share who you are, you must first share your heart. And started us off in a way by sharing a beautiful whale song from her people for us to all carry back to our home waters. She spoke of the unconditional love that she felt from her family, her parents and grandparents, and the importance that ceremony has in her life. She expressed words of encouragement for each of us to hold on to our ceremonies, and said that the well-being of young people should be at the forefront of all our decisions. Joni spoke of the international trauma that she has experienced in her life, leaving her with self-doubt. She also shared the many losses in her life and expressed sadness that her friends and relatives that have passed away at young ages, and that they did not get the chance in life that she has received. But she said it fuels her to do the work and advocacy to make sure that others don't suffer in the same way. She called for education and more resources and supports for young people. She said, we need to encourage all the youth to be proud of themselves, and that she herself is inspired by the resiliency and strength of the survivors in the room. It helps her continue her fight. Kira raised the question of what does it mean to be Métis in Canada? To her, it means understanding the uniqueness and beauty of her people. She has a goal for the future, that we will recognize each other's rights and distinctions, but that we will also come together as First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. She worried about the rise in denialism in Canada and knows that her voice is her power. She doesn't want the stories of survivors to be silenced anymore. She told us that youth are ready to take on their responsibilities and take on the fight of the ancestors and survivors. We were then honored to be joined by Her Excellency, the Right Honorable Governor General, Mary Simon. She said, everything we do for our children. We work to build a better world for them. We devote ourselves to them. We pass down identity, language, and traditions to them. We love them. She also reflected on the past and noted the change, and noted that change is happening. She said Canada is moving, albeit slowly, from listening to action. She had a message to all of you doing the sacred work of recovering the children. Take care of yourselves. Heal your hearts and your souls. Make education a priority and share your stories as widely as possible. And always remind yourself of what you have already accomplished. And she expressed her wishes for peace, for Skana, peace for families, so that they can finally know what happened to their loved ones. Peace for ourselves, so we can help others, and peace for the children who can finally rest. We then had the benefit of listening to and feeling the sound of the drum and the songs from Jimmy Uktituk. I apologize, Jimmy, which left us with feelings of peace that Her Excellency wished for. This afternoon, we learned together from the National Advisory Committee on Missing Children and Unmarked Burials, a vitally important committee made up of our own people who have the expertise to guide us and help us with the sacred work of recovering the children. We also had several breakout sessions today that we heard the summaries of. One discussed the forced transfer of children to other institutions, such as mental health hospitals, the TB sanatoriums, and homes of disabled children. We heard of the struggles that the families endured to find their missing ones in unmarked burials in cemeteries associated with these institutions. At another session, participants were guided through an interactive workshop facilitated by No History on how to use archival documents to support your search efforts. Nous avons également appris l'importance de la narration à travers le cinéma et projeté. Pour toi, Flora, dear Flora, qui raconte l'histoire des deux enfants Anishinaabe qui ont été emmenés dans un pensionnat indien au Québec et qui tentent maintenant de faire la paix avec leur passé douloureux. It was a full couple of days, and I hope that each of you will go home taking something back to your communities that will help you in the search for the missing children. I also hope that strong connections were made, that you had the chance to visit with old friends, and that you made some new friends. I felt the love in the room among us, and I thank all of you for that. Everything shared this week will inform our final report and contribute to the recommendations to create a new legal framework to protect the burial grounds of our children and our ancestors. Moving forward, our next national gathering will be held in January of 2024 in Iqaluit, Nunavut. Information on the gathering will be posted on our website. We are also planning a gathering in Ottawa when we will release the final report next summer. Alors que nous terminons aujourd'hui, je veux une fois de plus reconnaître les esprits des enfants qui ont été avec nous toutes au long du rassemblement. J'espère que nous l'avons traité avec l'honneur et le respect qu'il mérite. Any medicines and offerings that have been placed on the chair have been taken to the fire. The chair and the sacred items will be brought to our next gathering. All items gifted to the chair will be kept and cared for and will be gifted in ceremony at the end of the 2-year mandate that I've been given. And it will be gifted as according to the wishes of the elders and the survivors. Avant de nous séparer aujourd'hui, je tiens à exprimer ma gratitude et à dire naoué à tous les orateurs, présenteurs et participants qui ont partagé nos conversations au cours des derniers jours. Thank you for those who supported and contributed to this gathering, including the Native Women's Shelter of Montreal and Sept. I don't know where you are, but thank you for everything you've done in your team. The NIB Trust Fund, the Musée McCord, the Sheridan, and the City of Montreal. Without these close partnerships, we could not have pulled this gathering together. We also thank the National Center for Truth and Reconciliation for facilitating the sharing circles and being available to survivors who wish to provide private statements. I also want to thank Victoria and Luke for guiding us through the agenda. Luke and Victoria, for guiding us through the agenda and making sure that everyone that wanted to speak was given the opportunity. I know it's a difficult job to manage a large crowd like this on a time schedule, and I appreciate everything that the both of you have done. There you are. I also want to acknowledge the staff of the Office of the Special Interlocutor. Many are in the room. I hope all of them are in the room. And our event planning team at AMP, who work tirelessly to organize these national gatherings. And I really ask that you all give them a big round of applause for everything they've done. And of course, I have to thank the many volunteers that gave their heart and hands to us this week. And a special thank you to the many young people that have been supporting these gatherings, and they seem to all be in a gang over here. You know, the old Indian Act would have had you all arrested for being together like that. You will have noticed them, that they have been our note takers and our facilitators over the last couple of days. They told us from the very beginning that they want to help, that they stand with survivors, and that they are here to support the sacred work of finding the missing children. They continuously show up, and they are proof that Canada and the churches have failed in their efforts to destroy us. So whatever you guys do now, fist pump, high five. I want to say now I go into all the elders that provide spiritual guidance leading up and during this gathering, and as I'm standing on this stage, thank you. Especially special thanks to Thelma, John, Stephen Silverbear, and Geraldine Standup, each of whom guided us firmly and with patience, love, and kindness as we planned this national gathering and pulled off the national gathering. I also want to acknowledge Elders Donna DeBassig, William Osborne, and George Pashano that also provide guidance to me in the work that I'm doing in the mandate as a special interlocutor. Enfin, merci aux survivants. Merci d'avoir dit vos vérités. Merci de partager vos connaissances. Thank you to the survivors. Thank you for speaking your truths. Thank you for sharing your knowledge, and thank you for guiding all of us as we continue on this path to recover all of our children. Grand Chief Seedy said on Thursday that you are the sacred people, You are resilient. You are courageous. He said you are like the eagles moving majestically on this screen behind me, rising above the atrocities, pains, and abuses perpetrated against you. He said you are his warriors. And I think I can safely say for all of us here today that you are all our warriors, and we love you. I want to say safe travels to your home territories, and as we've been taught by the elders, be sure to call your spirits home with you. I say thank you, merci, merci, merci cho, nakulmik, megwich, hi, and nawe.
Kimberly, you cannot go away. I have to say thank you for this comprehensive and very, very accurate final report of this great meeting that we have had this week. Pendant qu'on remercie les gens, j'aimerais moi aussi juste en remercier quelques-uns. C'est toujours une tâche difficile, mais j'aimerais remercier les organisateurs et puis deux en particulier avec qui on a travaillé, avec Mme Julie Montour et M. Laver. J'aimerais aussi remercier ma co-présidente, Mme Victoria Labillois, avec qui j'ai beaucoup apprécié travailler. Oui. Et je voudrais aussi mentionner nos deux aînés Mohawk, qui ont été indispensables. Également, tous les volontaires qui ont œuvré pendant les 4-5 jours. C'était impressionnant de vous regarder. Les interprètes, le personnel de l'hôtel qui nous a vraiment bien servi. Et évidemment, pas les moins, mais vous-même, les participants, je pense que vous méritez aussi une bonne main d'applaudissement. To all the participants. And my last duty was to call upon Elder John Craig to the podium. But you know what? Because they do counterclock, he came to the podium before me. So, so Elder, take it over, please. Thank you.
You're welcome. Oui. Bonjour. Comment ça va? Ça va-tu bien? Little bit of French. It's been quite 3 days. Excuse me, something in my throat. I'm a great law person. I follow the great law, what we call the Haudenosaunee. And I'm always at odds with the government because I haven't given up our land. We still fight for our land. We've been doing it for 400 years. So it was a great honor for me to come here and to invite you to our lands. Where the fire is. The fire is in us as we speak, and like the young people are so proud to be a human being from many different nations. The elders who went to a lot of hardship. I know my grandmother, and it's hard to keep a good heart, but because of our great law, and we believe in that spirit, that we're strong and we have love and respect for each other and for all people, but mostly the children of our nation, our future. So the young people that I heard speak and the grandmothers, and he said, he took the child out of me. No, the child's still there. You just got to bring it back out. Be strong. Don't let them win. The government can't win. These are the lands of all Native people in Quebec, across Canada, across Turtle Island. When Sky Woman came down, they put that little muskrat, went and got that dirt and put it on that turtle, and that island grew. And from there came all the Native people. But the government has put people in our nation, gave them authority over the traditional people. But our people still go on living in the old way, the songs and our ceremonies and our prayers. And we respect all our brothers and our sisters who are here, all the different nations. Even though in Mi'kmaq, we used to fight sometime. And also the Hurons. But it was fun. But you know, today, we're at peace with one another. And we're fighting the same fight for our rights to be who we are as Ongwehongwe. We have a person in Ottawa now. She's from the north. I went to the north. I found it very cold, but the man who invited me up there, I was by the cliff over, I think it's Forester Bay in Iqaluit, and I lit my pipe, and he says, when I came back, he says, "What are you doing there?" I says, "I called my brother the sun up because it's too cold for me. I have to be warm." And it got warm, and the snow started melting. And he said, "This is not normal. But I'm not saying you got power." So the day that I was getting ready to leave, I went back to that cliff and I lit my pipe. And I came back and he says, "What did you do now?" "Well, I told my brother, son, he can go back down the south because I'm going home." So as we were getting on the plane, it started to snow. So when I got home, I got a call from him. He says, "We got the blizzard here and it's real cold and it ain't you that did it." So, you know, all my life it's been like that, a sense of humor, because real Mohawk people, traditional people, have that sense of humor, laughter. And I shared it with my brothers here. Even when we got in the circle, we laughed. When we danced that night we danced. We said we need an uplift. So we danced and we laughed. We had a good time. So when we went to bed, we were kind of like calm. So anyways, I'm going to do part of my closing in my language, and then I'm going to do it in English, the other half. Ona gadine rawat siiste na kajokwa. Ona yaga hoe. Ona hincho hone adawa tonti. Adawa tahine du ngwaskwahere. Du no wanu sode. Du no ngwanu sodo. Du no ngwana nasara. Ngwahunta. Ne ayawoske asawada suisto setena sawaya tawo. Negadine Akamanus ne Aguasuta Jokatneha. A gunner, the news was a tahina, to know this subject, this was then a sayatawa. There are Raktia, ne Roswate, to Nahunzake, Ninguno de esos tiene esa guayada, tiene esa guatori, tiene esa winzere. Tiene esa guatori, tiene esa tena, a gani good hard. Scano dini asa was the gaffa. Kwa higa ti yuk weza kwe, ka ang gwa chatarorige, ang gwa yeso, ang gwa tanuni. Dana kwa higa yukste, jina hoto, runa dadi, jina hadi, dama stak kwa jinu, kanato, wahudenya, de, na wira sua. Kwa higa, jina hoto. Quýigiú tí nóú chu díáta. Né tí rúdú lu dí cáras tí na hadíire. Dana gonúga tí na hadíire. Yatit gaéri. Yún zón a dawádana. A dawad quadágu. Dusa sego né tóní a dawáyáta. Adawana, ya, second to, Adawayata. Adawata. The words I spoke is about the residential school and the travel. We're going to be traveling. You're going to be traveling. I asked the grandmother Moon that she watches over you as you journey back to your land, to your home, that you get there safely. And I asked her brother, the son, to watch over you during the day as you're traveling and driving so you get home safely, till you get to your loved ones. So with that, they asked me not to make it too long, and people who know me, I don't know when to shut up. My wife tells me, she says, sometimes you gotta cut it short. I said, how short? 2 hours? So anyways, I love all of you. I came here, I invited you to our territory, Jojake. It was a great time. Maybe sometimes we didn't agree, but most of the time we did. But I'm very passionate about the children and about our grandmothers, because I don't like to see them hurt. And the young women today, oh man, they're smart. They're really good. And the young men, and we had the young fire keepers who kept that fire going, that spirit going. And every time I went out there, people come around and they start talking. They want to talk. They want to share, to heal. And then, of course, one day I was supposed to be here, and I wound up going to the fire, and everybody's looking for me. And I said, well, that's a Mohawk. He gets lost sometimes. Anyways, Skanagi is on Tunuga, Oniga Wahina, on the one hoto. Josara on the what, though it's the, although I didn't know what got the road again. Sego, now the Wataro, that no soon I yonder, we will look forward to see maybe in a year's time we can gather again and go over and see where we are in life and where our children are and how we can bring them back. Because it's all up to you, because we're getting old now and grumpy, and we don't know how long we're going to be here. My partner there doing ceremonies, Silver Bear, we young men, we used to travel all over the place and try to help people, and we worked hard, and now we're starting to slow down, and he lost his partner that stood by him. And he tells me how sad sometimes he is. And I feel for him. Because when you lose somebody so close, it's very hard. So I ask God to help you to go through those hard times. I think I talk long enough. Yama.